Welcome back, Ultima Weapons. It's the Night Sky Prince again. Final Fantasy VII Remake director Tetsuya Nomura has always been a bit of a mysterious person. He doesn't often update his fans on his work due to both personal preference and to preserve artistic integrity in his work. That and Square Enix's own company restrictions, oftentimes not letting him show anything off on his projects. While Kingdom Hearts 3 has lately gotten a massive surplus of news, Final Fantasy VII Remake has remained an extremely mysterious title, with only a few very vague details on what the game actually aims to be as a final product. During a closed event for The World Ends With You Final Remix in Japan, Tetsuya Nomura was part of a fan Q&A, during which he was asked some questions pertaining to Final Fantasy VII and mentioned some of his plans for the upcoming remake. Nomura was prompted during the fan Q&A on when they'd be able to play Before Crisis Final Fantasy VII again. For those of you who don't know, Before Crisis, much like Crisis Core, is a prequel to Final Fantasy VII. It provided a great deal of information on the Turks and Avalanche that wasn't included in the main game or Crisis Core. If you're thinking, boy, that sounds completely awesome, how did I miss knowing that a game like that ever even existed? Well, that's because it was a Japan-only mobile phone game, and it came out back in 2004. Nomura started out his reply to this question by saying, quote, "Perhaps not everyone is aware of this, but I'm working on a remake of Final Fantasy VII. He then laughed, a bit of a lighthearted joke from Nomura, as he didn't even know himself that he was directing Final Fantasy VII Remake until he saw the internal information about FF7R while prepping its initial reveal, saying, "That explains why the team had asked him so many questions about what the game should be like." I mean, who would want to be the one to break that news? I mean, how do you even tell him that? You know how you're directing Square Enix's second biggest franchise? We also need you to remake the most iconic JRPG of all time. He then goes on to say, quote, "I'm focusing on Kingdom Hearts 3 at the moment, but once that's done, I'm heading over there next." This makes sense as Nomura has said that he doesn't want to talk about Final Fantasy VII Remake until the release of Kingdom Hearts 3. He wants to put his full focus on getting this game out of the door. And while Kingdom Hearts 3 is just a couple of months away, Final Fantasy VII Remake is God knows how long away. It's also worth noting that Kingdom Hearts 3's development is taking place in Square Enix's Osaka building, and Final Fantasy VII Remake's development team is located in Tokyo. So when he says heading over there, he literally means heading over there to another city where Final Fantasy VII Remake's development is literally and physically taking place. This seems to bode well as he's mostly been doing development remote. Now he'll be physically on location, able to make decisions and hopefully speed things up. He then says, quote, "I've been thinking about ideas for the remake's release, and I just spoke to producer Yoshinori Kitase about it today. We have a lot of the old guys thinking about all kinds of developments that can accompany the remake in some form. Perhaps some sort of a compilation title. For now, please wait for Final Fantasy VII's turn." Honestly, this is pretty huge. Nomura is essentially saying here that they're currently discussing if a Final Fantasy VII Remake compilation title remastered would be possible. And this would presumably include the much requested Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII. The problem is though, is that the majority of these games are not in a ready state that they can just be remastered. In fact, a lot of them would need straight up remakes in order to make them work in a modern landscape. Before Crisis is a cell phone game from 2004, and it would take much more than HD resolution textures for this game to be considered playable or even enjoyable for the PlayStation 4. I mean, if a game like Type 0 can get slammed for its PSP roots, then Before Crisis has a lot of work ahead of itself. Dirge of Cerberus was about as well received as a burger restaurant review written by a cow. The game is largely considered to be straight up broken, and it's oftentimes slammed as being one of the worst titles that Square Enix has ever released on console. And however bad you thought the Western release was, the original Japanese version was even more poorly received. For example, Vincent couldn't perform attacks while he was midair, and easy mode was just so easy that it was actually kind of broken, so they literally removed easy mode. Though I know some of you, much like myself, still have this strange borderline masochistic enjoyment of the game, despite knowing that it's pretty awful. That leaves us only with Crisis Core and Advent Children. Crisis Core was pretty well received, as it was a pretty fun PSP game, and as an individual title, it was pretty enjoyable. But it did many retcons to Final Fantasy VII's overall story, even retconning the design and origin of the Buster Sword, and including Genesis Rhapsodos, who is based on Japanese pop star Gact. As you can imagine, this has caused huge problems for Square Enix. The likeness of Gact is literally used in the game. Because of this though, many people speculate that it's not even a technical issue of porting the game, In fact, it may be a legal issue of porting the game. You can't even buy this game on PlayStation Vita. In fact, aside from buying a used copy of Crisis Core on UMD, you cannot legally buy this game anymore brand new at all. I mean, seriously, you cannot buy this game anymore. It was literally removed from the PlayStation Store. While Square Enix has done this with some of their other PSP titles, it's because they also have HD remasters. In fact, you can still buy a copy of Final Fantasy IX and Chrono Cross from Square Enix's store, or even a PlayStation 2 copy of Final Fantasy X, a game that came out in 2001. But you can't buy a copy of Crisis Core. And as to why, well, it's still unknown for sure. Then there's Final Fantasy VII Advent Children. They have no problem with making this one available. Even on YouTube, Square Enix did an excellent job of 1080p remastering Advent Children for Blu-ray. As the original cut was standard definition on DVD and UMD only, it would serve as an excellent hype builder if they could possibly remaster the movie one more time. But this time, re-render the movie and make it a 4K version of it. Even here though, there might be a few problems. Nomura said in an interview before that the CG technology is old and it's no longer in a readily usable state. Recreating the environment for the movie may prove to be difficult. I mean, even Square Enix's current remasters don't have re-rendered footage. They're usually just upscaled using powerful upscale algorithms. Not to mention, PlayStation 4 doesn't support 4K Blu-rays. And if you don't have a PS4 Pro, you're just not getting 4K at all. But if they do make it happen, they can always put it on Netflix and that would work just as well. So Ultima Weapons, I want to know, are you excited that Nomura is planning to go full swing on Final Fantasy VII Remake now that Kingdom Hearts 3's development is coming to a close? Or are you just sitting in a corner praying somehow they'll find a reasonable way to remaster the compilation? Subscribe, click the bell icon, and let me know in the comments below. And if you really love Final Fantasy VII, I mean really love Final Fantasy VII, be sure to join our Facebook group, Ultima, Square Enix plus JRPGs. We'll help you get hired at Shinra. Just make sure you have a good life insurance plan first. Link in the description below.